Hello and welcome to another edition of the Pace and Space podcast. My name is Sean Barnard from DraftKings Network and Crossing Broad, here with my guy Sam Oshtry of The Score, ready to dive into the latest across the NBA and, of course, touch on it is that time of year, my favorite sporting event in the entire world, which is March Madness right there. So we are going to finish off today's episode by going through the bracket, making our choices, build a little Pace and Space podcast bracket special ourselves right there. So ready to dive into it. But before we do, Sam Oshtry, where on the street is you were playing backup minutes behind Joel Embiid at Kansas. Is that correct there?
That was an all-time clip. I mean, unbelievable. When I saw the caption, I was like, okay, he probably just mistakenly slipped out Joel Embiid as a recent center for Kansas. That's not what happened at all. He kept going and going and going, acting like Joel Embiid was just playing for Kansas like a couple of years ago. That was on, and he says it so confidently too. And obviously, that account is made for making fun of Francesca and all of his gaffes and everything, and he has a lot of them. But that was maybe the craziest of them all. He just kept going. He said that the St. John's Center left Kansas because he was competing with Joel Embiid and starts talking about how Joel Embiid, what type of player he is in the NBA. This was 2014 Joel Embiid suited up for Kansas over a decade ago. I mean, it's not even like, I don't even, it's not even like the lack of ball knowledge. At that point, you just have to respect someone who like knows nothing about what they're talking about, but still even just wants to talk about it.
Yeah, and shout out to Mike Francesco, whom I'm poking fun at. He is a legend of the game, one of the foundational pillars of sports media in a way, especially in the radio space right there. But a quite funny slip up that I did have to bring up right here off the bat here. But we got a lot to get into today, and right at the top of the list here is NBA expansion because like Joel Embiid himself, that obviously has made his way into the NBA. There's a lot of talent trying to make their way, Sam Oshtry. And we did get reports from Adam Silver in the league office this week that it does seem likely that this feels like something that is more so going to happen. And it's kind of a matter of not if, but when is probably the way that I would phrase that. You think that is fair to say?
Absolutely. This was floated out back in 2020. And it's kind of been a 5-year journey to this point where it's actually going to the Board of Governors meeting next week for real votes. And it seems like every time Adam Silver's done a media availability, he's been asked about expansion because of the fact that it was floated back in 2020. And he's pushed it off a little bit for a couple of reasons. Number one, he wanted to get past collective bargaining, which was a couple of years ago. They did, of course. And then number two, and he got absurd media rights deals. So the values of all these franchises went way up. And then number two, he also wanted to do this NBA Europe project. And also the media rights deals, which was a big part of it. He wanted to get through the media rights deals, which he did. But he also wanted to do this NBA Europe project, which it feels like is picking up a lot of steam recently. And so it felt like expansion took a back seat because of that. And now I don't know exactly how this is going to play in with the NBA Europe project. Based on the timelines we've heard, the NBA Europe should open, which is going to be this new league that the NBA owns, but playing in Europe, just a bunch of European teams. That's supposed to open. That first league is supposed to be in the fall of 2027. So that's supposed to start before the NBA actually expands, which I believe would be the starting season would be 28-29. So it's part of Adam Silver's mission to continue to grow. It's a business. He wants global domination for the NBA. And part of that is dominating all the big major markets in the actual the United States of America, including Seattle and Vegas, which are the two ones that have been hinted at.
Yeah, and to the point about the NBA Europe conversation, is my understanding is they sort of want to directly connect themselves to the likes of the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the teams that are already kind of established in Europe right there. I will say from like a wider scale that I understand the logic of you want to be as big as possible. You want to be as globally known as possible. You want to maximize your potential earnings, sales, just remote, people caring about basketball and the NBA as a whole is, I guess, the goal here. But it has felt like a little bit of putting the cart before the horse to an extent, that this is the primary focus. What's kind of your thoughts on Europe being the focus before we even dive into the United States expansion?
I get it from a business standpoint.
Sure.
You want to grow the game globally. I mean, basketball is way more popular than these other sports like baseball and football.
Not
overseas
soccer.
and abroad. Yeah, obviously, soccer will always dominate the world. But in terms of what's the biggest sport in the United States, it's football, it's basketball, it's baseball. Those are the top three. So basketball is a bigger and more popular sport in Europe. So you already have that footprint of fans there. I mean, I was just in Europe this past February, March, was it? I was playing pickup basketball in Greece. I just wanted to get a run in, pick up basketball in Greece. These guys love the NBA. This guy's talking to me about the NBA and like who I like, my favorite teams, players who I like to watch. And I was asking him these questions back, and he was telling me about Amen Thompson was his favorite player to watch. I'm like, dude, these games are on at 4:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning, where you are even watching Amen Thompson play basketball. And he was like, I can't stop watching all the reruns of the games, YouTube. It's just basketball is so huge, and the NBA is so huge over there. So when you bring these teams over there, they're not associated with your EuroLeague or FIBA or anything like that. They're associated with the NBA. It's gonna bring a whole new scale of basketball to the world stage. And the NBA wants parts of that. It's going to expand their business. And that's what it is at the end of the day. Everything they do, and we're going to talk about expansion in the actual NBA league in the United States in a little bit, but everything they do is from the business perspective of how we can get as much money as possible. And this is part of this European thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand it conceptually there. It just feels to me like we have bigger priorities to deal with. We have Kawhi Leonard circumnavigating the salary cap. We have load management problems. There's things, the lottery system tanking. There's a lot of conversation to be had about the league that is already running beyond just launching a new one right here is sort of where my brain gets
for sure. And you hear that, and we hear that from Twitter and the people we like and respect around the NBA all the time. But if you're Adam Silver in the league office, your sport is gaining popularity by the day, right? You're having an all-time great rating season. So as much as bitching and complaining as there is online, and sometimes it feels like that's real life, it's not real life because the NBA is exploding in popularity. So yeah, I would like them to fix parts of the game and fix actually maybe the on-court product to a degree, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
But that's not their priority because people are watching and engaging with the NBA no matter what. It's all about money, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's what's more important. It's a business. And Adam Silver, people have been critical of him because maybe he doesn't actually focus on fixing the game and he's just business savvy. But that's his job. And his bosses are the owners. What do the owners care about? For the most part, all these guys just care about feeding their pockets as much as possible and increasing the value of their franchises for eventual sales. And that's what Adam Silver has done brilliantly, way better than David Stern and way better than any other commissioner in sports.
Yeah, no, I think that is spot on. And that is the point right there. And I do think people mistake the hierarchy of where the commissioner exactly, ranks in things right there of, yes, he is the head dog that makes all the decisions. He has to be the bad guy at times. But the reality is, to some extent, he reports to the owners that he is in that same sort of pocket, that same sort of club right there, and that he has to make sure that everyone is in with well-regarded. Now, shout out to our guy, Rocky the Birds fan, that is getting involved in the conversation. Sixers are going to get cooked tonight. We will touch lightly on the Sixers versus Nuggets thing. I got to bring up this question here. Sam, do you have a player comp you want to throw
Yeah, I
there?
do. That's a good question, actually. I'd say Pascal Siakam.
Really? Interesting.
I mean, I'm not as tall as him, but I'm kind of like the people I play against. I'm a taller guy, long, lanky, similar face-up, pull-up game, operate in the mid-range, can finish around the rim, can knock down a three from the outside. Really good footwork is my player comp. And then the last thing is I can't be the best player on a great team. I'm self-aware. I'm honest about myself. If I'm the best player on like an average pickup run, the team's probably going to suck. But if I'm a number two, then this is going to be a really good team. We're going to win a lot of games. That's kind of how Pascal Siakam is. He can't be a number one on any team, but when he's playing with Tyrese Halliburton and other great players, then he can be an all-star level player. That's my player comp. And when I say that, people like to give me a lot of crap for that, but it's true. It's a good player comp.
Hey, I appreciate the honesty right there, the self-awareness in the conversation. So appreciate that right there.
Appreciate the question, Rocky the Birds fan. Tyler Hero, I'm white. I can't shoot like Tyler Hero.
Shout out. I did want to dig in a little bit on this expansion conversation because I was intrigued by your reply to my text right here when this was brought up, is that I'm against the concept of expansion right there. So what exactly is your position on that, and expand your thoughts for why you do not think this is a good idea for the league as a whole?
Yeah, I hate it from a fan perspective. I completely get it from an owner's perspective, from a league perspective. You're going to get a ton of more money. I mean, that fee, the admission fee from those two
Yeah.
teams that they're going to have to pay to the league, and that money gets dispersed evenly among the other 30 teams that are active members right now. It's going to be an absurd sum of money, whatever it ends up being. So I get it from an ownership and league perspective. It's just more money in their pockets. From a fan perspective, you and me and a lot of other great fans are locked into this league every night in a time where nobody is right now. I mean, this is March Madness. College basketball gets a shine for 3 weeks. This is March Madness time. Not a lot of people are paying attention to the NBA every night, but we still are. And when you pay attention to the NBA every night this time of year, you see absolutely terrible rosters taking the floor. I mean, you can go through all the tanking teams like the Pacers, Kings, but even teams like the Sixers right now, teams like the Warriors right now, 2 playoff teams. The teams that they're putting out there
Hopefully.
are just bad, and it results in not great basketball on a nightly basis. We don't need more players and more teams in this league. We already are putting out when March comes around, G League rosters, guys who are usually at the end of the bench. Nobody wants to see that. And it's a lot of the criticism that the league has gotten where it's like this product is unwatchable for so many teams, probably half of the league this time of year. There's still incredible games between the teams who are actually playing for the top seeds and top contenders and all that. But for everybody else, and even winning teams like the Sixers, like the Warriors, guys are injured all the time. It's not good basketball. We don't need more teams and more players in this league. 30 is a perfect number right now. And I don't think expansion is the answer.
It's interesting. I understand where you're coming from with that. I do think like when we have the conversation for why those rosters look like that, like the why of that to me is a lot about the way the salary cap is played out and the way there is this commitment to max players. And like I think those are the cause and effect is laid out because of that right there. I sit here and think about that conversation. And I think about a guy like Cam Payne, who just can't sign with the Sixers after playing in Serbia for the first half of the season. A guy like Lonnie Walker, who I believe is an NBA quality player who's back overseas because he wasn't able to find a roster spot. I think there should be places for those guys in the league, man. And I do think that the talent level across the board when it comes to skill in the league is higher than ever. I think there's more guys pushing than ever. I think there is an interesting conversation to be had about what exactly is the relation to all this NIL and guys staying in college for the length that they do. And we're seeing all these guys sort of stick around and, that landscape has changed to an extent. I don't have a problem with the expansion conversation. I do think that you can put a competitive team together from scratch in a couple of years and like make it happen. I think Las Vegas will be competitive in the pretty near future if they tried it. We saw in hockey that in the NHL, I understand it is way different.
Oh, no, they won't. It's not the NHL.
How so? Tell me why not.
Well, first I want to address a point that you said earlier, which was about NIL and people staying in college, which I think is a completely false narrative. This is an unbelievable freshman class, right? And we're seeing all these top seeds have some of the best players. These guys aren't staying in college. They're all going to the NBA, and they're all going to be top picks. These guys who are staying in college, are second rounders. They're guys who wouldn't be real contributing impact players in the NBA.
I'll push back on that because you're right about the top of this class would have been one and done regardless. They would have been one and done whether NIL is here or not. Beyond that, like Yaxel Lendenborg, who's the best player on Michigan, incredible talent. The dude was a lottery pick last year. He was absolutely going to be a lottery pick. He was a stud for UAB. He got offered, I believe, north of $2 million to go to Michigan last year. And that's what he decided. Let's think about that for a second. That dude decided to pass up on the NBA to make more money in college. That's insane. That's insane right there. But that is a dude that's an exact product of the NIL. And by the way, has a chance to be a national champion a couple weeks down the line right now. A tremendous player and a guy that's going to be a first-round pick this year once again. Like, it's not – you're right to some extent there, but that is a blanket phrase that doesn't fully apply.
Lottery pick might have been a stretch. Right now, he's out of the lottery in most mock drafts. He's around like 20.
Nah, I don't think so.
I was looking at one yesterday. I saw him at 19, ESPN's mock draft. He was 19.
Okay, I mean 19, a top 20 pick is
okay.
Close,
Yeah, no,
man.
I mean it's still good, but we're not talking about the best players in the league that are staying in college. Like these are still guys who, would be drafted in first round picks potentially, maybe late first round, maybe early second, whatever. But they weren't. They're not guys who would stay in college, or immediately go to the NBA and make an impact. Like I'm talking about the best players in the league who would go and make an impact immediately. Those guys are still going to the NBA. That's my point. It doesn't really matter for everybody else because it's not like those guys are increasing the talent of the NBA right now.
But I mean, like I think anywhere you cut it, like that top, that like 1% of 1%, the Darren Petersons of the world, the AJ DeBances of the world, the Cooper Flags of the world, that quality of player is finding their clearest path to the NBA regardless. And NIL is independent of that. Sure, it dictates where these guys are going to land for that specific season, but like that is a small fraction that we're talking about. I do believe that there are more guys that will, the NIL has changed things. Like Lendenborg, I think, is a phenomenal example of this. That is
Yeah,
a guy.
first, I'm not denying that guys are going to stay in college. Guys are definitely going to stay in college, like
Yeah,
maybe late lottery picks, not just try to increase their draft stock, but to also because they'll actually make more money in college, which is great for them and great for college basketball and the health of college basketball. But that doesn't impact like the NBA. And I guess the point that we're talking about really is like, is there enough talent across basketball
and
to add two more teams? To add two
I
more
think
teams.
I think the resounding answer to that is yes. You disagree with that right there? Because each of these guys, and we're using the example of the current college class, like they eventually graduate, man. They eventually move on. That all these guys have to find that next step, whatever that may be. I think having two more NBA teams would help and be
I
beneficial
mean,
to everybody.
you're 100% right when you say that basketball talent is as high as it's ever been. There's no doubt about
Yeah,
that's unquestionable. But the NBA has never been the 450 best basketball players in the world. That's never how it's worked. There's
absolutely
way
true.
better guys
Yeah,
in Europe who are Europeans who sometimes stay there or take a while to come over. But there's also guys like you mentioned, like Lonnie Walker's obviously a top 450 player. Campaign was obviously a top 450 player. But what these
right.
NBA teams do is often they'll use some of their last few roster spots on developmental projects on guys who are
Correct.
22, 23 years old that they might want to take a chance on and can develop in-house without actually playing a lot of minutes, rather than a Lonnie Walker who the NBA has kind of decided, yeah, he can give you some good games, maybe come off the bench, good depth piece as a 9th, 10th guy, won't really be a contributor on a good rotation and just isn't worth it at that point. So, yeah, those guys can come into the league and there'll be more opportunities for them when you expand. But I don't necessarily think that it's going to that there's going to be more competitive games and more competitiveness throughout the NBA, which is all I care about really at the end of the day. And what you're seeing right now is you're seeing some of the guys at the end of these benches playing for these teams, and it's producing terrible results. And that's why people are so angry with the NBA right now, because you turn on any given night, and there's a lot of games going on tonight, but you turn on any night and it's just terrible teams that the Warriors are putting out there. Terrible teams that the Sixers are putting out there. And those are two teams in the playoffs, right? We're not even talking about the 10 teams that are tanking. It's just, I don't need two more teams. I don't need two more teams and 30 more players in this league.
Do you think it makes it worse though? Because I don't think it changes that calculus right there. There's going to be teams that are going to tank. I feel like it's the same exact thing. It's just if you want two more teams. Like I don't think that changes how teams are going to approach things. The lottery conversation, it's going to be fascinating to me what the actual decision is made, because there are going to be some sort of changes, at least from what Adam Silver is talking about, the way he's speaking about it right there. But you think two teams changes that calculus there?
Not really. But what I will say is, you touched on this earlier about you think that they're going to compete immediately, these two expansion teams, presumably coming to Seattle and Vegas. I don't necessarily buy that. And hockey's completely different. I don't really know the details of hockey that much. But you look at the last expansion team, which was the Charlotte Bobcats, which is now the Charlotte Hornets, obviously. And they were the last expansion team in 2004, which brought it from 29 teams to 30 teams. They've made the playoffs 3 times. 3 times since 2004, since they were brought into the NBA. And I'm not 100% saying that's all because they expanded, but I'm just saying based on the system that they presented, which is 8 guys on your team are going to be on every team are going to be protected. Teams can protect 8 players on their team, and then those other 2 teams can draft and they'll alternate picks everybody else across the NBA other than these 8 protected guys, except you can't take more than 1 guy from each team. That is not going to produce a winning team immediately. And also what I read, and we should say that there's no actual official rules yet for potential draft expansion. They haven't even officially approved expansion yet. It's being voted on next week. But this is how it worked the last 2 times there was expansion, in 95, I believe, and 2004, which brought it from 27 to 29 and then 29 to 30 teams. That's how it worked the last 2 times. And I don't think that's going to produce winning teams immediately, and I don't necessarily know a future for those teams to win other than tanking. So now you have 2 more tanking teams. And the last point of that is, which is what I was reading about how this is going to work. you can't have one of the top picks in the draft. The league and the commissioner will place you into a draft slot, and apparently it just won't be like a top 3 pick. So last time when there was expansion teams, it was the 5th pick and the 6th pick, I believe, that they were awarded, but it won't be a top 3 pick. That's what we know from the last time there was expansion.
That is really interesting there. We will onto that when we get the specifics of the conversation. I think we might whip up a little expansion draft ourselves here when the time does come. We get a little bit more stability for what that exact outlook is. To get my facts right on the Las Vegas Knights conversation, so once again, NHL, which is far different, and I'm not going to act like I am a hockey savant by any means right here. But the Las Vegas Knights, in their inaugural season, went to the Stanley Cup Finals and lost in the finals right there, and then lost in the first round of the playoffs the following year, lost in the conference finals back-to-back years, missed the playoffs, and then won the Stanley Cup championship in their 6th season, or 6th season in existence right there. So your point about the Hornets, I'm going to put a whole lot more blame on their draft track record than anything. Like, this is the same team that drafted Michael Kidd-Gilchrist 2nd overall. They've made a lot of mistakes, more so than I think. You're right. If you just
and they had a terrible owner too.
I mean, the best players don't always be best owners. I know you're not pointing Jordan here, but I do think he was a decision maker in that room, in that kind of conversation right there. My point here being that I think if you want to actually dive into the specifics of why the Hornets made the playoffs, I don't think them being an expansion team is the primary reason for that. I think they made a lot of mistakes.
It's probably not fair 100% if you have really good management and good ownership, but you can overcome that. But I just don't think these guys are going to compete immediately. And I don't know the first thing about hockey, but hockey and basketball, apples and oranges. The way that these two leagues operate are completely different. So I don't think you can use the Golden Knights success in hockey as a reason or justification for why these new NBA teams are going to be great. Last thing I want to say is, do we like the cities? I mean, Seattle's a no-brainer, of course. The Supersonics were electric. They deserve a basketball team. They have unbelievably passionate sports fans, and we see that from football. Are we good with Vegas?
I'm not surprised. It's expected to me. Do I think there's going to be this unbelievable fan base in Las Vegas? Absolutely not. Do I think that there's going to be like I would much prefer for Seattle, for example, they're obviously a major city still, but on the scale of things, to compared to like the Philadelphias, the New Yorks, the Chicagos, the Bostons, the team like that they're a little bit smaller in size. But I feel 100% confident that fan base is going to rally around that there's going to be a legitimate Seattle Supersonics pull. I don't think that's going to be the case in Las Vegas, but as we sort of started this conversation, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense, Sam Oshtry, and I think that's exactly why Adam Silver will go that direction. I expect it to be Las Vegas. My, reaction is just on par with that, but no, to answer your question, I don't think this is going to be a phenomenal fan base.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot to talk about. I mean, these are going to be voted on next week, so we'll discuss them even more next week. Maybe we should workshop some names for these two teams, Las Vegas and Seattle teams. And then also,
my last point, the Las Vegas Aces, the WNBA team, do draw. That they are one of the highest drawing WNBA teams. So maybe that is a point in their favor. But
I mean, I've been to Vegas a couple times, but I don't necessarily know the demographics and the loyalty of the fan base and how many locals, and not just locals, but people who feel Vegas pride. I mean, maybe there are a lot. I don't necessarily know. It's always kind of just been a hub for conferences and big NBA events, but beyond basketball and beyond sport
parties.
Yeah. And just obviously Vegas is Vegas, but it will bring some life back to the economy, which is dying in a lot of ways from the casino business and in-person gambling, and that's decline and everything. But that's a whole different conversation. But we will talk about names for Vegas and Seattle. And could you bring back the Supersonics? Probably. Yeah, I don't know the trademarks and everything on that, but probably. And then the other thing is, which team is going out east? Because that's going to be a battle between the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies, because both those teams, obviously, like every team in the West, would like to join the Eastern Conference. Both those teams are going to fight hard for positioning of who's going to join the Eastern Conference. So I don't know they both make sense geographically a little bit, but that's something we can talk about next week too.
Yeah, we'll dive deeper into that in the future. So we'll put a little bit of bow on the expansion talk for now. And shout out to our guy, Rocky the Birds fan, once again, who brought up a topic that I wanted to dig into right here. Yo, what do you boys think of the Hawks right now? 10 in a row. Is it a fluke, or are they legit good? What I'm willing to say, Sam Oshtry, is I'm starting to believe this team is legitimately good. That the Atlanta Hawks are a team that I would not want to face in a play-in or playoff setting right now. That I think I'm ready to stand on the take that Jalen Johnson is just straight up a top 15 player in the NBA. That I watched this team put belt to ass against the Orlando Magic last night, in which they just looked better than them in every single aspect of basketball. I'm starting to believe. I'm not saying that Trae Young was addition by subtraction, but what I am saying right now is it was necessary to turn a page on that style of basketball, and this team is clicking on full gears in a way that I think we're only at the start of. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, this team's really good, and you have Jalen Johnson, who is averaging a triple-double this month in March, and he's been incredible. And in the beginning, you kind of attributed this to the Jonathan Kuminga surge and how great he was playing. But then he got injured, and he's missed a ton of time. And the 2 games he's come back, he's barely done anything. So, yeah, I mean, he looked rejuvenated when he came back, but you can't attribute – he's really hasn't contributed the last 5-6 games or so. He's only played 2 of them and wasn't a real contributor. Played less than 20 minutes in each of those 2 games. So this isn't really about Jonathan Kuminga as much as that it might appear to be. It's really about Jalen Johnson, who's been incredible. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's averaging career highs across the board.
He had 41 last night. 41.
He's unbelievable. Like, I mean, talk about, first off, the Timberwolves could really use him. And second off, I know we have never seen him with the ball in his hands as this type of creator this much. His usage rate has been really high, and it's had to be for this team. But Jalen Johnson's often the primary initiator, and his playmaking has gone to a whole nother level, the way he reads the floor. But then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, as a secondary ball handler, secondary creator, has been so great playing alongside him. And then you have a Onyeka Okongwu, always mess that up. Onyeka Okongwu, he's like, Kristaps was supposed to be the guy. Kristaps was supposed to be this big for them. He's come in. He's been great. Kristaps obviously barely played for you when he was there, and then you ship him off to the Warriors. This team has just been clicking on all levels. They're defending at a decently high level over this 10-game winning streak, and we know their offensive production. So I'm super impressed with this team. Is it real? Like, it depends what you mean by real. They could sneak into the playoffs for sure. It's going to be a really interesting play-in the East, but I'm not sure that they can actually win a playoff series.
Yeah, I think by real, I probably don't mean for this specific season, but what I do think is real is that they are trending in the 100% right direction, that they're onto something with the way that they are building out from here. And by the way, just Jalen Johnson, it's insane that he's this good, man. That this was a guy that had like red flags at Duke, that like he basically quit the team midseason. And it was like, what's this guy's deal? The talent you could see. He had some really impressive flashes right there, but he also had some low moments at Duke. And it was like, what is this guy really about? And when the going got tough, the dude basically walked away from the program as a whole. And I remember being like, I don't love any way that this went down. Lo and behold, the Hawks take a chance on him, and he's just well beyond what I thought any reasonable ceiling for him as a basketball player could be. It's a credit to him for putting this together and a credit to the organization for trusting him. And the other thought that like crosses my brain when I watch this Hawks team, go ahead.
I just want to say on the point about his college career, it's a good warning for everybody, including yourself, criticizing Darren Peterson as much as you have. When you look at guys like Kyrie, who barely had a college season, and guys
was
like
legit hurt.
Yeah, he was legit hurt, but still barely had a college season. Wasn't a big sample size to look at. And then Jalen Johnson is a prime example of a guy who, there was a lot of criticism because of how he quit on the team. And maybe and his work ethic and all these things. And does he love basketball? And then he's turned into an all-star. And he was great last year too, but he only played 36 games because he got injured. And so maybe when everyone's criticizing Darren Peterson, it's like your college career doesn't necessarily project how you will be, especially from an attitude perspective and a personality perspective in 5 or 6 years.
I will say we're starting to see the Darren Peterson stories leak out now about all this cramping stuff that he dealt with. That I heard there was a reporter. I'm dropping the ball on their name at the time right now, but talked about how he had a full body cramp right during basically their hell week, where it was a ton of conditioning and a ton of stuff for Kansas basketball. That he had a whole body cramp that required him getting IVs, all this type of thing that has really kind of stuck with him through this season. We'll see what Darren Peterson is about. The thing that I will say in his favor is he has every opportunity in front of him right now in the NCAA tournament to just make people forget about all of it. If he balls out, he will be the surefire number 1 pick with no doubt about it right now. But we'll bookmark that a little bit until we dive into the college conversation.
Yeah, his PR team should have been doing those stories earlier. I don't know what took so long.
Correct. And that's what's kind of been head scratching about it, is he has representation. The agent is literally like on the sideline of Kansas games right now of just say what's going on. I think this is another situation where the lack of information made everyone look worse. And a similar story to Joel Embiid, which I talk about a lot. If there's just honesty, if there's just transparency for what exactly is going on, it's probably a whole lot better than what people were speculating at. But for Darren Peterson directly, he kind of let the whispers and the rumors and all the people, thinking through what could possibly be happening, make things look much worse than is the actuality. But nonetheless, we'll push that to the side. My last thought about the Atlanta Hawks, I think they can out-athlete any team in the league, man. I think if we're just talking about the raw athleticism, like you mentioned Onyeka Okongwu, you mentioned Jonathan Kuminga, even Zachary Reese-Shea, even like Dyson Daniels is a guy who's like a ridiculous athlete in itself. And they got scorers too. Vik Krishek is still like kicking around doing his thing. They just got bodies right here. I'm in on this Hawks team.
How in though? Let's actually pull up the NBA standings right now.
Sure.
I'm going to do that right now as we speak because this play-in is going to be an unbelievable race.
So they're in the 8th seed right now. They're a game back for the Heat for the 7th seed. They are a game and a half back for the Raptors for the 6th seed. I think they can catch the Raptors and get to the 6 at minimum.
And well, the Magic are right there at the 5 too. So
Sure.
the Magic and Raptors are tied. And then you have the Heat, who are half a game back from them. The Hawks and Sixers, who are tied, but the Hawks have the tiebreaker. But those two guys are a game and a half back from the 5 seed even. So, like, Hawks go on a stretch. They could be the 5 seed and get a first-round matchup against the Cavs, potentially. But if not, then you have the Magic, Raptors, Heat, Hawks, Sixers, and Hornets still, who, again, since the new year, has been the best team in the NBA, best net rating in the NBA. And they're not on a crazy win streak anymore. But they're still one of the best. They've been one of the best teams over the last 3 months. That is an unbelievable bottom 5 in the East. And that play-in race is going to come down to the last couple of games of the season for all of them. But when you actually get to the play-in and whoever escapes out of it, it's going to be incredible play-in matchups. I think you're right that the Hawks could get out of the play-in and keep rising. But the Heat have been playing really well too. The Magic have been playing really well, which is why the Hawks are the one who broke the Magic's win streak. The Magic had won.
Yeah.
I believe it was like 6 or 7 in a row before the
7.
Hawks beat them the other night. And that's why that was such a huge game, especially for the positioning in the standings. So this is going to be a wild play-in the East. And it's going to come down to last day of the regular season.
Yeah, and the take that I'm ready to pound my chest and stand on right now is all season I talked about how to me the Toronto Raptors were the most obvious, win a ton of regular season games, be eliminated in the first round. There's no chance that this team ends a top 6 seed, that at least one of these teams is catching them. And I would think probably multiple, that I think the Hornets, the Hawks, the Sixers, the Heat, they all have a pretty clear chance of passing this Raptors team. I don't believe in Toronto.
Probably. I mean, the Raptors were a team that beat really bad teams and lost to really good teams all season. And then they beat the Pistons the other night, which was a much needed win for them. They needed that one badly. I think you're right. And then you're looking at a situation where do the Raptors miss the playoffs entirely? Like if they have to play the Heat in the play-in and then the Hornets in the second round of the play-in, or like somehow if the Sixers are in there and the Sixers get completely healthy for the play-in tournament, like are the Raptors out of the playoffs entirely? That would be a super disappointing end to what was a really promising season.
Yeah, that would be a tough swing for Toronto there, and I think that is absolutely on the table right there. What's your vibe on the Philadelphia 76ers right now? Is that this is a team who, it's interesting, you dive through their schedule, you pretty much can chalk it up to the wins and losses right here. Is they're going to play a team like the Denver Nuggets tonight. They got a matchup against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They also play the Utah Jazz, the Sacramento Kings. They finished the season with the Wizards and Bucks right there, which is 2 clean chances at a win. It feels like we can pretty much decide what the record's going to be. Do you think they climb out of the play-in, or they're going to have to scrap their way?
No, I mean, they're definitely not climbing out of the play-in. No chance. I mean, we still know when Embiid's going to be back. How are they going to climb out of the play-in? Paul George isn't back for another week. Tyrese Maxey's not back for another couple weeks probably. There's no idea Embiid's status. We don't know Kelly Oubre's status. How are they going to climb out of the play-in when the Heat, the Hawks, the Magic are all playing really great basketball right now? What's the vibe on the Sixers? I mean, they're coming off a really good weekend where they went 2-0 against 2 teams they had to beat.
Yeah.
I will say, you can chalk up the losses to the Sixers, including tonight, even though you sent a wild text earlier today saying the Sixers are going to win tonight and beat the Nuggets.
They are.
That's not happening, but feel free to take your victory lap if it does. And then they have the rest of the week, and you're like, okay, there should be wins. I don't know why, but I've been catching way too many Kings games for my liking recently. It's the West Coast game, late night games. My TV's on from whatever was the channels the night before, League Pass, whatever it is. Kings are competing right now. Like I'm watching this Kings team. I'm not trying to watch this Kings team, trust me, but I somehow am catching them a lot over the last few weeks. They're competing and they're picking up some wins and playing really hard. And DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook and all these guards are just playing hard for a team that has the worst record in the league and is trying to tank. They're competing right now. That is by no means on the road, on a West Coast road trip, a win for the Sixers. Let me just put that out there right now.
I get what you're saying, but they're competing is like Russell Westbrook spazzing out there, DeMar DeRozan taking mid-range jumper,
For
Maxime
sure, DeMar 41 the other night.
Yeah.
It's like when you're talking about a Sixers team without Maxey, Oubre, Embiid, and Paul George, Kings might have the better actually I guess not might. The Kings do have the better team. Without all those guys, there's no way you think the Sixers team's better.
Dylan Cardwell does not exactly strike fear into my heart, is I guess what I would say right there. I give you credit. Like I mean as a compliment to Sacramento. They're trying their ass off, and that's rare for a team in their situation with their record, with the context of the standings right there. So that is a little hat tip in itself, but I do think the Sixers can win that Kings game for sure.
But I mean, just to go through the Sixers schedule down the stretch here, where you're right that they need to pick up as many of these wins as possible against the teams like the Kings, the Nuggets. They'll play the Bulls coming up. They'll play the Wizards. They'll play the Pacers and Bucks to finish season. Like those are what did I just rally off? 6 wins that have to be wins.
Yeah,
absolutely have to be wins. And the rest of them, like you'll play the Nuggets tonight. Obviously, the Thunder, the Hornets, the Heat, the Wolves, the Pistons, the Spurs, the Rockets. Like if you can sneak in a win or two in there, that's just a blessing and an added bonus. But the other games have to be wins. If they can finish the season 500, they'll be in a position where maybe they can be in that first playing game, because you really want to be in that first playing game. You don't want a do or die situation in that 9-10 game.
Yeah, you're right about that. And to give the context, what I think is the bigger story from a Sixers perspective is injury stuff here, which we know Paul George will be returning for the Chicago Bulls game, which he will playing the final 10 games of the regular season. Tyrese Maxey theoretically could return for that matchup against the Washington Wizards on April 1st, which would bring him for the final 7 games of the regular season. And I think it's pretty likely that happens. He's already out in the court doing as many left-handed drills as humanly possible. I appreciate Tyrese Maxey to the fullest extent, because that is a rarity with that. Joel Embiid, as per usual, is sort of the variable here, the question mark for what exactly he can be when that timeline will be. There's been radio silence. We were supposed to get an update a couple days ago now from the Sixers organization. All we got is basically a reluctant answer from Nick Nurse of, I think he got on the court. He obviously is not with the team. He probably played back home. I don't know. That was basically what the report did read as to me. What is your vibe on all this? Is this just it's over?
I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. It's getting weird. It's always weird with Joel Embiid.
It is getting weird.
But it's always weird. I mean, of the weird scale, it's still on the 1 or 2 or 3. If he doesn't play the rest of the season, then I think he's played his last game as a Sixer.
But
and then that's no. But it's not even like we discussed whether you should trade him or shouldn't trade him. There's something more with him and the organization if he doesn't return this season. Where if he's not even willing to return for a play-in run at 70%, it's over. It's
got to play.
And I don't know exactly what's going on. We don't really know if it's the oblique or the knee. I'm gonna say it's the knee. They can say it's the oblique all they want. I'd lean more towards the knee was actually bothering him, and his right knee management was on the injury report a ton of times before the oblique injury. And oblique, it's like, there's levels to the oblique injury. You're usually not out 3-4 weeks with an oblique injury unless it's like a torn oblique or like something that a Paolo Banchero or Franz Wagner has had. It doesn't seem like it was like that when the original time frame was only 3 games. So it seems like there's something weird going on, but there's always something weird going on. I don't know if he's done for the rest of the season. I don't know when he's going to come back. We have no clue, and I'm not going to act like we do, because we both know that the Sixers organization has no clue. I don't think Nick Nurse has a clue. That's why he gives those answers. I think only Joel Embiid and maybe the one doctor he trusts in this world have a clue.
Yeah, I mean, he better play again this year is all I'm saying. If we do not see Joel Embiid step on the floor again this season, like there's a little bit of credence to what you're saying right there. But I refuse to believe that that's the case. And I also will circle back to the Darren Peterson conversation. Sixers organization, man, just tell us what you know. Tell us what the deal is. What exactly is happening right here? But that lack of transparency, radio silence.
But do they even know?
They know more than they've said. I know that for sure. You think that's fair, right?
Probably, but also the other thing with Joel Embiid that we've come to realize over the last decade is he is very particular about what he wants out there
Correct.
regarding his health. So the Sixers organization is in a peculiar spot where they can't, backstab's not the right word, but they can't present this information Joel Embiid doesn't want out there that a lot of other organizations would do. But Joel Embiid does not like that. He's very, very particular. He doesn't trust a lot of people, as we know. And the Sixers organization has to be mindful of that. And that's how they've operated for a decade now.
Can I be honest, Sam? I don't think they do have to be mindful of that. That I would, if I'm Daryl
Okay,
Morey,
not anymore. I think you did when he was your MVP superstar, this guy who was your everything for your franchise. Not anymore, but
I'm
I
with
think
you.
they used to had to be mindful of that. You have to be of your superstar.
Yes, I'm with you on all of that. I think in the current context of how everything is, that if I'm Daryl Morey, I'm walking right up to Joel Embiid and saying, look, man, I know the way the cookie has crumbled the past 12 years here. I know the way that you want things done, but we've been fined multiple times for the league for a failure to comply with the injury report regulations for what we have to do. That's not the way we're doing business anymore. That's how I would present that if I'm Daryl Morey. Of whatever's going on, we are going to follow the rules and regulations that this league dictates that we do. That I understand you don't want your personal business, your medical information out there, but the reality is, brother, you are a professional athlete. That is what comes with the territory. That those pretty paychecks that hit your bank account every 2 weeks, that is part of the responsibilities that carries with it. So while I understand on a human being level, you feeling some type of way about I don't want, the public knowing everything that I'm dealing with physically, the reality is that is what comes with the territory. So while there was a point where I understand why the Sixers bent the knee to Embiid to an extent, I think we're past that, man. And I think that message should be heard loud and clear to Joel.
That's fair. I completely agree with that. And it all stems back to Sixers don't have a good culture. And I've always been a believer that your best player sets the tone for your culture. Always. And he doesn't necessarily have to be your emotional vocal leader, but your best player, your most talented player, has to set the tone for the culture. And it's why, as good as Sixers been as good as the Sixers have been some years, they've had a bad culture for years now. And until you detach yourself from Joel Embiid, that'll continue. Like I just said, I've always been a believer that your best player, most talented player sets your culture. It's a big reason why, as much as I love Kevin Durant, and I've defended Kevin Durant for a long time, he has not had a lot of team success. I wouldn't say not a lot of team success, as much team success as maybe he should have, other than going to an organization like the Warriors where the culture was already in place and you were just the guy they had to plug in. You just couldn't ruin the culture. He hasn't had a lot of team success because he's been the best player, and he isn't a guy who you want as your leader, as your culture setter. And that's why a lot of these places he goes don't have great cultures, like the Nets, like the Rockets now. So I've always been a believer of that, and I think it's very true with the Sixers and Joel.
Yeah, I think that's largely true. I also think like Joel's a unique one from the standpoint of like, I'm always sympathetic to the fact of the Sixers organization has failed Joel Embiid far more often than Joel Embiid has failed the Sixers organization. And like him being the voice of stability is just not how a franchise should function.
Well, because he couldn't, because he that's not his personality, where he could be the voice of stability. If you had a different personality, he might have been. And look, I mean, it's not the time to
like would Jason Tatum, would Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, would any of these guys be able to survive?
I think Brunson would have been.
If Brian Colangelo was pulling the strings of this franchise.
No, I'm not saying could have survived all that stuff. I'm just saying he's a better leader, certainly than Joel Embiid.
Sure.
And a lot of these guys are. I mean, we've done this a lot, and when that day comes, maybe very soon, where it's really the end, we can relitigate this. But yes, the Sixers organization has absolutely failed Joel Embiid. He's also failed the Sixers organization. And when you have those two things together, you have a lot of disappointing finishes and exits and seasons, which is what the Sixers have had. And when it's all said and done, the Joel Embiid experience will have been incredibly disappointing from a team success standpoint. And there's really no other way to look at it. When you have a player who's that talented, and we both know, genuinely one of the most talented players I've ever watched play basketball, and an MVP of this league, and you can't get past second round ever. Never with him did you get past second round. What is it, 4 total playoff series wins maybe? That's a disappointing tenure for the Sixers when you add up the entire decade of Joel Embiid.
I hear you with that. I mean, there's that's inarguable. Is the standpoint of when you talk about, and that's one of the things that continue giving me faith is when you talk about like the hierarchy of where this guy ultimately like stands up to from a talent perspective. You don't see these types of empty postseason resumes. It does not happen. Not for Hakeem Olajuwon. You can run down the list of all these guys who I believe he deserves to be mentioned with from a talent standpoint in that same conversation right there. But at the same time, the facts are the facts. The results are the results. I only brought that up from the culture conversation, as I do think a lot of that was established in, I guess, alongside Joel more so than directly with him. And even like this stat I'm seeing run wild right now about how he's played 485 games and sat 485 games in his career. I've seen that all over the place these past couple of days. For starters, the first two seasons of his career, he did not play. And yes, that was due to injuries. I understand that you can't like fully excuse that, but it was also pretty tied to this was the organizational game plan right there. But nonetheless, let's not get sidetracked.
It is a little flawed, but it also is funny and ridiculous because those two seasons are part of his legacy and his career because he didn't play those.
Didn't start yet.
Yeah, but it was like when you think about the Joel Embiid experience, we're going to think about how disappointing it was because of injuries. So when you add up those first two seasons, why didn't he play? It was because of injuries. Like that's the Joel Embiid story when his career is done. It's that this incredibly talented player, one of the most gifted basketball players we've ever seen, who developed more than any player we've ever seen over like a 7-8 year span from a talent perspective, due to his work ethic and all that stuff, didn't end up winning and didn't end up accomplishing as much as he should have because of injuries. So injuries are part of it. And when you say like the Sixers let him down, it's true. He also let the Sixers down because of his injuries. And those injuries are part of the story.
I also like think it should be worth noting, like go into all those injuries that like the dude broke his face 3 times. The dude got Bell's palsy. Like these
but those weren't like he played through all those, right? Like when he broke his face and Bell's palsy, he also had the knee thing during that Knicks series. But
shouldn't that be
broke his face? He played through all those. It wasn't the absences that we're looking at.
Shouldn't that be spoken with credit for the toughness, the grit that it requires to do that?
What player hasn't played with a broken face with a face mask?
A lot of players, most players. Who has not played? How many players have broken their face? First off, very few.
Face mask. Kobe era. LeBron's worn a face mask.
Rip Hamilton,
Brown
my guy,
rocking a face mask recently. All these guys wear face masks. Rip Hamilton, face mask legend.
I love Rip Hamilton, man. Shout out to him. All right, we'll put that to the side. We've had plenty of Joel Embiid conversation. It is the best time of year in the world, and the March Madness time here. Even though I was trying to search for one of these, none of my little songs here. That is not even the Sixers win song.
Do you have a board? Do you have a board? Is that where this is coming from?
Sort of. It's in the StreamYard deck that we're working through right now. None of these exactly working out the way I was hoping for a transition, but let's talk some March Madness, Sam Oshtry. For starters, I know you're primarily an NBA guy, as am I myself. I have dove deep in these college waters these past couple weeks. I'm thrilled for this season, man. I'm excited about what this March Madness tournament is going to be. I think it's going to be an all-timer. Where's your mind at before we dive into our specific picks here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the same mindset. I do think it's going to be chalky again because I think there's 3 teams, Arizona, Michigan, and Duke, who are so much better than the rest of the field, which is similar to what we saw last year. When you look at all these Ken Pom metrics of how much better they are compared to everybody else, they're very similar to last year with those 4 teams who obviously it was the first time since 2008 where all 4 seeds advanced to the Final Four. And I've talked about this with you a few times, but the gap between the top of college basketball and these high majors and lower level programs, mid majors or whatever it is as wide as it's ever been, that talent gap because of NIL. Well, where guys who would be stars of mid-major programs or lower level programs are now getting paid so much more money to be the 8th, 9th men on these top high level programs. So I do think it's really hard for some of these lower level programs to make runs the way they used to. So I think it's going to be chalk again. I do think, that like last year's first weekend was not very exciting because of that, as opposed to in the years past. But that did create an electric Elite Eight, an incredible Final Four and championship. So I'm looking forward to those matchups in those next couple weekends where you're going to have best on best. And the last thing is, you talked about from an NBA perspective, this is an unbelievable draft class.
Yes.
And all of these guys who are going to be towards the top of the draft class are playing for some of these top seeded teams. Like we know, obviously, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBansta, and who am I forgetting? Carlos Boozer, obviously. But how
Cam.
about like Darius Akoff? How about like Nate Ament for Tennessee, who's going to be a top 10 pick? Keaton Wegler for Illinois. These guys are
Kingston
going.
Flemings.
What's that?
Kingston Flemings.
Yeah, exactly. These guys are going to be top picks in the draft, and they're all playing for these top seeds. So from an NBA perspective and a draft perspective, it's super interesting too. So it's March Madness. It's going to be fun regardless of how it shakes out.
Yeah, 100%. And just to put a kind of a bow on that is the effect that I see is these mid-major teams, these, the McNeese State and teams like that, the benefit that they had and the capability of making a run that we saw in years past was a lot of times because these were teams and programs that had been together for several seasons. That's not really happening anymore because when you do ball out at one of these mid-majors, all of a sudden Michigan State or Duke or Arizona or whoever comes knocking, throwing some NIL money your way. And that's when we see these guys sort of get handpicked. So that's where the deterioration that I'm seeing is happening, is that like the top guys in mid-majors get plucked.
I think that's a great point because you're right about the continuity. When you look at all these runs, it was like, oh yeah, these guys were seniors. They'd been together for 3 or 4 years. And it's not just that they're getting plucked. It's also that these mid-major programs are pitching themselves as springboards to get to the high major level, where they're okay with getting guys for one year, and they're pitching the pitch, I guess, is, yeah, you're going to be our superstar. You're going to be our best player this year to some of these top players, and then that's going to give you opportunities to go make a ton of money at a high major. So they're okay with that because that's how these mid-major programs have to survive and stay atop their conferences and get the opportunity to get into the dance. So I think that's a very poignant point about that also contributes to why these mid-majors can't make runs like they used to.
Yeah, 100%. Now, with that all said here, let's make some picks, Sam Oshtry. Let's pull up the board. Yeah, it is a little bit, but we're rolling through it. Let's see. We got this pulled up on the screen. I think we just run down and make a little bit of a bracket ourselves right here. So let's start off right at the top. I don't think we'll have any argument in the Duke versus Siena matchup. Although I will say Siena a little bit tougher than their 16 seed will indicate there. With that said, Duke is a
I lost you for a second there. I assume we went Duke. I'm good with that.
Yes. Yeah, I my point was I do think Siena's a tougher team, and their 16 seed will indicate there that is a scrappy team. They'll fight, but yeah, I don't think they have any chance against Duke. I do think they cover the spread that I'm seeing sitting at 29.5, but I do not think they have any chance to win.
Yeah, I agree. And Siena's coach, Brian Hodgson, who is the coach for USF, he was getting poached by Syracuse and Providence. He just turned down the Syracuse job. He might still take the Providence job. We'll see. But now apparently Syracuse is pivoting to Siena's coach. So that guy's probably going to be out of there anyway after this year.
Jerry McNamara is his name.
Syracuse alum. Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% there. The 8 versus 9 seed, Ohio State versus TCU. Sam Oshtry, where's your head at?
I like TCU in this matchup. I think Ohio State's a little overrated. I think TCU's underseeded. Give me TCU.
I like it. I kind of, this is a little bit of a toss-up one for me. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here. Don't have a strong feeling. St. John's versus Northern Iowa. I like this Northern Iowa team a little bit, but I don't think this is quite upset potential. I'm rocking with St. John's. Where's your head at?
I agree. People are way too high on this Northern Iowa team. Like there could be some 5-12s. This isn't the one. St. John's is killing this team. And St. John's obviously is pissed that they have to go across the country after winning the Big East championship. But hey, the Big East stunk this year. It absolutely stunk. And so that's kind of what you get.
Yeah, Zuby Ejiofor did not transfer from Kansas to be a backup from Joel Embiid to lose to Northern Iowa.
Yeah, I thought he did.
Yeah, well, we'll rock with that.
I got to say, too, real quick, the best Mike Francesca moment, as we were talking earlier, was this is all the time. I can't even say it with a straight face. Have you seen the clip when he's talking about the Giants and the New York Giants and the San Francisco Giants, and he was asking, do you think those two teams hang out because they both are named Giants? Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, you gotta watch. He's literally talking to himself like he's doing one of these shows. It's like, yeah, the New York Giants, San Francisco Giants. You think those guys hang out because their team names are both Giants? It's all time. He's one of one, that guy.
Yeah, he is one of one. I'll have to give that a Google right there. I will say the first one I feel pretty passionate about. I think Kansas absolutely wipes up CA Baptist right there. I think Darren Peterson's got something to prove. I think there's a real chance this is like a redemption arc. He puts the team on his shoulders, which, by the way, there is a squad behind him, the Trey Whites, and you can go down the roster of guys that are pretty studs right there. You think Kansas absolutely blows them away?
Yeah, I think they're going to kill him.
I'm with you. All right, Louisville and South Florida. Curious to see where your head is at here. Mikal Brown Jr. dealing with some injuries, the best player on Louisville and a likely lottery pick himself. The South Florida Bulls right there won their conference tournament to punch the ticket. Where's your head at?
I like South Florida to upset them, and I really like this at +4.5, which is the spread right now. South Florida is second in the entire country in rim attempts per game. This team is super athletic. They play really fast. They're just a bunch of strong athletes, and they get downhill, get to the rim. I don't think Louisville has the physical toughness to try to counteract that. I just think Louisville shoots way too many threes. You're talking about the health status of Mikal Brown, still uncertain at the moment, and even if he does play, probably banged up. So I think South Florida pulls off the upset.
I'm with you here, and I gotta say, like, I really do love Pat Kelsey as a coach. I love his energy, love what he's about as a vibe guy. I just think he's missing a little bit of the top end talent that it requires here. So I'm rolling with South Florida as well. Let's punch that in. The 3
For
versus
sure.
14,
I was just plugging my phone in real quick. I want to say about Pat Kelsey, he completely turned around that Louisville program. Think about how terrible they were. Like one of the worst teams in Power 5 history before he got there. So credit to him, but this Louisville team isn't it.
Yeah, 100%. Michigan State versus North Dakota State here. North Dakota State, another team that I think belongs in the tournament, has a little bit of spark to them. But I think the Spartans are a team that deserve to be on that short list of teams that could win the tournament overall. Jeremy Fears, he's going to be dirty. He's going to be nasty. But the bottom line is that dude's a terrific basketball player right there, and he's got a squad around him. I think Michigan State has no problem cruising by. What do you think?
Yeah, Michigan State is not kind of being talked about as one of these true contenders. And I look, this region is unbelievable. When we go through this region, it's like Hall of Fame coach after Hall of Fame coach. Tom Izzo, we got Mick Cronin, Dan Hurley coming up. Who else at the top? Rick Pitino, obviously. John
Rick Pitino. Yep.
Unbelievable. Yep. Bill Self. Unbelievable coaches in this region. But Tom Izzo, this is his month, right? March is his month, and this Michigan State team is really good. When you look at their last couple weeks of the season, or a few weeks of the season, their only real losses were to Michigan, and there's no shame in that. This team is equipped. It's a classic Tom Izzo team that rebounds the ball really well, plays defense, but it's equipped. One of the best point guards in the country in Jeremy Fears, too. This team could make a real run in a way people aren't talking about them.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, and we will circle back to that very conversation as we continue progressing through the UCLA Bruins versus UCF right here. Any strong feelings on this one, Sam Oshtry?
Yeah, I love UCLA in this one. By the way, this game's in Philadelphia, but I love UCLA in this one. Donovan Dent's one of the best point guards in the country, and he's a little hurt, a little banged up right now, but he definitely should play. The UCLA is really talented, and they got off to a rough start early on, and especially in Big Ten play, but they've been one of the better teams, certainly in the Big Ten, but across the country. I think they're underseeded based on how they finished, and I think this UCLA team is really good. I think they easily take care of UCF.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is one that I felt passionately about and I was ready to fight for. Is Donovan Dent was a dude that I fell in love with at New Mexico, that I thought this dude is an absolute stud, and he really struggled for the first part of this year. Couldn't find his footing in UCLA. He's been incredible down the stretch. I believe the final stretch of the season that he had 77 assists to 6 turnovers right there. That is absurd. Just not taking care of the ball, efficiency from Donovan Dent right there. I love this UCLA team. And by the way, they have some pretty impressive wins on the resume for this season, especially down the stretch of the season. But let's go down to the 215 in this bracket here. Dan Hurley and the UConn Huskies facing Furman. Any sort of upset potential in this one, or does UConn roll?
Yeah, UConn big. I lost you again there. I don't know if it's you or me freezing, but I said UConn big.
There we go. We'll roll with that. I do think I'm overworking the laptop a little bit with the split screen, but nonetheless, obviously a first 4 matchup between Lehigh and I believe Prairie Valley is, I think, the school right there. I think anyway we cut it that Florida takes care of business in this matchup. Any pushback on your end?
Nope.
All right, Clemson and Iowa. Interesting matchup there. Love Bennett Sturts out of Iowa, who's a guy that has played himself into being a first-round pick. But this Clemson team has upset some really impressive teams, including the likes of Duke and a number of others right there. Where's your gut out in this 8-9 matchup?
I'm going to lean Iowa heavy. I like the Big Ten in these first-round games. They've had a really good – obviously, the whole thing is the Big Ten has won national championship in a while, but they've had really good – first round success over the last few years. And I just think the Big Ten is a better conference that's more equipped for that first weekend, certainly over the ACC. And like you said, Bennett Sturts, like he's a guy who can take over not just one game, but a whole weekend in March Madness. And I think Iowa is the way to go there.
Yeah, he's playing like 40 minutes a game right now, too. So he's going to be out there from start to finish. I'll roll with Iowa as well. I do think Clemson has a chance. That is one that I feel pretty split on. Let's transition to the 5-12 matchup. Vanderbilt versus McNeese. Obviously, I believe I did see that Amir Khan will be back in action leading this team out of the tunnel, but I'm not quite sure that is enough to lead them over the talent discrepancy over the Vanderbilt Commodores. Where's your head at, Sam?
I didn't know that because McNeese is actually my favorite upset on the board, and I didn't know about the Amir Khan situation, so I may have to reevaluate that. I'm sick of seeing that guy. And I haven't seen him in a year, but I'm already sick of it. This McNeese team, remember how trendy of an upset they they were last year, and they got it done over Clemson. But that was because Will Wade was this obviously huge character in college basketball, and that's why they were getting all this attention. He's not there anymore. He's at NC State. But this McNeese team is still really good. They value the possession game as well as anybody in the league, and anybody in the country, excuse me. They play with a pretty slow pace, but number one in the NBA. I still think we're talking about the NBA. Number one in the country in turnover margin, and number two in turnovers forced. That they just get more possessions than other teams because of their ball pressure defense, and that leads to a ton of fast break points for them and transition opportunities when they force all these turnovers. Vanderbilt has struggled with that. They're top 20 in the entire country in turnovers per game. So when you're looking at a team who values possessions like that, turns teams over, and against a team that's susceptible to turnovers, I know everybody loves Vanderbilt right now. They're a trendy pick to make a little run because of their success in the SEC tournament. But we see success in conference tournaments not always translate to March Madness. So I think this McNeese team is equipped to pull off an upset and a little bit of a run.
I like it. I like the stats you're pulling out. I will note on the Amir Khan conversation is shout out to my guy Amit Bogle, who is a guy I played soccer with, a very high-level soccer player. He went playing in this, I believe it's like the semi-pro / professional league down in Miami right here. His team hired Amir Khan to walk them in and out of their introductions and whatever the case.
Like the actual Amir Khan?
Correct. He was down there. I've seen pictures and videos.
What the hell is this guy? What did he charge?
I'm sure I could find out if you want. But he has made a
game. With all due respect to your friend, I hope they lost that game.
He has made a career. Shout out to the Brown Ballers is their name down there. So shout out to those guys doing their thing. And Amir Khan walking him out the
Didn't he like transfer? Wasn't the whole thing like he entered the transfer portal and he was going to follow Will Wade to NC State, but then he backed out?
Yeah, there was some stuff like that. I personally, I'm appreciative of a guy capitalizing on their 5 minutes of fame right there. But
I don't blame him at all, but I don't want to see it.
I do think there'll be a different tune for Amir Khan walking out the tunnel this year. But let's transition. Let's keep rolling. Nebraska versus Troy in the 4 versus 13 matchup. What's your feelings here, Sam Oshtry?
I kind of like Troy plus the points with 14.5, pretty large spread against the team Nebraska, where there's a lot of high 3-point variance, and those teams can be susceptible to upsets. I mean, over 50% of their shots are threes, which is a dangerous game to play sometimes. But look, if you get hot, then you can make a real run when you shoot that much from the outside. Nebraska's never won an NCAA tournament game. I hope they do it because it'll just be fun. It's a cool storyline, and I think they will.
I'm with you. I'm bummed because Nebraska is a team that I had circled in my potential upset teams. I just don't love Troy. I don't find enough that I can get inspired by or believe in from a basketball perspective. I do think Nebraska gets the job done. I did not realize that would be their first time winning a tournament game in history right there. So that is pretty wild. Let's keep rolling. UNC, the number 6 seed versus number 11 VCU. I really love this North Carolina team for most of the year, but not having Caleb Wilson, who's a guy I still believe absolutely should be a top 5 pick right there, that's a big deal for UNC. I like VCU on the upset here. I think this is a team that can run and gun. They can score with the best in the country. If Caleb Wilson was there, I think it's a very different story, but I'm rocking with VCU. What do you think about that?
I'm with you. This North Carolina team has just been pretty bad since
Yeah.
Caleb Wilson went out. They're probably not even a tournament team if you factor in that stretch and take it throughout an entire season without Caleb Wilson. So I think VCU pulls off the upset.
Yeah, I'm with you. Love it. Illinois versus Penn. I will say that Ivy League teams do have a tendency to kind of disrupt the way that, teams like to play and stylistically there, but a big gap in talent right here. That Illinois is right up there, pound for pound, with the most talented teams in the country. Really attack the overseas and a lot of guys from Europe that really play some high level basketball. Where's your mind at on this 3 versus 14 matchup?
This is an awesome matchup, not just because it's cool that Penn's back in the dance. And of course, TJ Powers, incredible 44-point game in the Ivy League Championship, the 3-pointer, the force overtime, all of it. But also Brad Underwood and Fran McCaffrey, guys who went up against each other in the Big Ten back when McCaffrey was with Iowa for years, and some incredible matchups there. So I'm going to take Illinois, because I think this Illinois team is good and underrated based on how they finish the season now. But Penn shoots a ton of threes. I mean, they just launch threes. So there's a scenario they get hot and they keep this game pretty close.
Love it. I'm with you. I will rock with Illinois. I do think Penn has a puncher's chance in this matchup, but I think talent does ultimately win out. Next up, we have the St. Mary's Gales versus the Texas A&M Aggies. The Gales, one of the best defensive teams in the country. I like St. Mary's to control this game with their defensive impact right here. I don't see enough on Texas A&M offensively to overall overcome this. They're a good team, a good squad. I think this is going to be a fun matchup, but I like St. Mary's here. Where's your head at?
It's really 50-50. I'll go St. Mary's with you. I didn't like what I saw from them down the stretch of the tournament. Santa Clara obviously beat them in their conference tournament. But this Texas A&M team got off to a great start. They were atop the SEC for like the first month of conference play, and then they've really slipped up. So I'll lean St. Mary's.
All right, Houston and Idaho next. This is one I don't think we need to waste much time on.
Yep.
I'm in on this Houston team. I understand they had a tough 3-game skid. Did they have some flaws offensively? Kingston Fleming's tough as nails. They've got Kelvin Sampson type guys on this roster. I think Idaho might not crack 35 points.
Yep, agreed.
Cool. Keep it rolling. Down to the West region. Arizona versus Long Island here. Not something, although fins up. Shout out to Long Island. But any objections here?
Nope.
Arizona, the Villanova Wildcats, Kevin Willard's Villanova Wildcats facing the Utah State here. I liked Villanova. I liked the way they played all year. The Matt Hodge torn ACL is a big deal for this roster here. They still got talent. This season is a success regardless of how this matchup goes, but I don't feel great about this from Villanova's perspective. I won't lie. Where's your head at?
I'm with you. I was inclined to go Nova, but I am worried about this one. The Matt Hodge loss has been pretty huge. They just don't have depth. They're also a young team. I will say, and they didn't beat anybody all year. I mean, the Big East was terrible this year, so they really benefited from that. And it's impressive they're back in the tournament after 3 years without it. So kudos to Kevin Willard for that. But they have one win against a top 50 KenPom team all season. They just played nobody in their schedule. And when they played the St. John's and UConns of the world in conference play, they got blitzed by those teams. So I don't think this Nova team is very good. They're properly seeded, I would say. And they lost to Georgetown, obviously, in the Big East tournament. But I will say Kevin Willard has had a lot of success in that first game of tournaments, going back to with Maryland, but he was 2-0 in those games when he was in the Maryland. But then even going back to Seton Hall, that first game of the tournament, he's had a lot of success and found ways to win. And I trust that over I would like a Mountain West team typically. But I think Utah State's probably the better team, to be honest. So if you want to go them, I'll go them.
We'll go with the homer pick just to do it here and give Villanova the advance. But my honest answer is I think Utah State probably wins this one. But this is March and anything can happen. So we will see. I do smell upset this next matchup right here as High Point takes on Wisconsin. We've seen High Point get into the dance in a pretty recent future and make a little bit of noise here. This Wisconsin team I do think is a bit vulnerable right here. I like High Point to get the outright win. Where's your head at?
I don't think so. I like Wisconsin.
Really?
And Wisconsin's another team similar to Nebraska where they just launch a ton of threes. But we saw down the stretch they won 5 of the last 6 games and like almost 60% of their shots were threes, but they were shooting 40% from 3 over that stretch. So if you're shooting that many and you're making them, you're going to be really hard to beat. And when they're shooting and when they're making threes at a high clip, they're nearly impossible to beat. And I think that could carry them on a real run. Of course, there's the flip side, what I talked about with Nebraska. When you have a lot of high 3-point variance, you could have a terrible shooting night, and if you're relying on just launching from deep, you live by the three, you die by the three. And High Point is a really fast-paced offense and scores a ton. They could somehow sneak in, but I'm going to lean more towards Wisconsin as a good shooting night.
I'll give it to you. I don't feel like fighting too much on it. We'll keep Wisconsin in the dance here. I will fight you on this one, however, if you do not think the Arkansas Razorbacks are beating Hawaii, because I'm telling you, Darius Acuff is the type of guy that can carry a team not just past the first weekend, but through an entire tournament. I think Arkansas has a gear that they have not fully reached this year, and we're starting to see it. I think Hawaii feels that.
Have not fully reached. They just won the SEC tournament.
Sure, and I think they can be better. Like, I seriously think this team is still scratching the surface. I think Arkansas is a dark horse team that could win it all.
See, I thought that they were my pick to win the SEC tournament, and because I really like this Arkansas team, I'm completely with you. From the talent and everything, I'm not going to argue with you. They just feel like one of these. This is strictly feel. They feel like a classic team that wins their conference tournament and gets bowed out early. They're not going to lose to Hawaii because Hawaii's not a good team. But I could see them slipping up in the round of 32. I will say I'm rooting for them because I want to watch as many games of Darius Acuff in the tournament as possible. But I could see a scenario where they're out earlier than people think.
Interesting. We'll circle back to that as we dive deeper. BYU versus Texas or NC State. Does this matchup matter to you, or is AJ DeBansta and company? Obviously, a huge injury to BYU themselves right there. An ACL tear to Richie Saunders is his name. A huge part of their team that's been there for a couple years. I still think BYU has too much talent to lose to either one of these teams. Agree or disagree?
I agree. And just update on that score real quick. Texas is up 19. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. The suspense. Texas is up 19-12 over NC State. That game's going on right now. I'm with you. I like BYU. I think BYU can make a little bit of a run. Yeah, Richie Saunders is a big loss, but they've been playing pretty decent. It's been like almost a month now that he's been out. They've been playing pretty decent without him. AJ DeBansta is incredible. He can carry a team. And Robert Wright is really good, too, as a co-star. They don't defend very well, but they can score with it, the best of them. So I think BYU wins easy.
Yeah, pride of Newman Goretti, Robert Wright right there. And
really, I didn't know that. Nice.
Yeah, I got a chance to watch him in high school. Very good player, was incredibly talented at the time, and has flourished into well beyond that. But we'll keep it rolling. Gonzaga versus Kennesaw State. This is another sort of matchup to me that I wish it was different. I do think Gonzaga has upset potential right there. Don't think Kennesaw State quite has enough to get it done. What do you think there?
I agree. I think Gonzaga takes care of business.
Cool. We'll roll with Gonzaga. Miami versus Missouri. This is a really interesting matchup right here. One I can be convinced in either direction. What's your immediate gut reaction?
This game's in Missouri, in St. Louis, Missouri, which is really interesting because obviously Missouri's the 10 seed and Miami's a 7, and Missouri's getting home court advantage. But I think Miami's a better team, and I would still lean Miami.
All right, we'll roll with that. I'm fine. I do think that is a toss-up. Purdue versus Queens. I'm not all the way in on this Purdue team. I've seen them get a lot of buzz. I don't think Queens is a team that has the upset formula. Deal?
No, I like Purdue.
And we've gone pretty chalk so far, which is obviously going to bite us here, but we'll continue with that. Michigan is going to beat either one of these teams in the 16 seed. Any arguments here?
Nope.
Yep, keep it rolling. Georgia and St. Louis. This is a pretty fascinating matchup to me. I like both these teams a lot. I wish either one of them got different draws. My gut leans towards St. Louis on it. They're a team that has basically existed in the top 25. Both these teams have popped in and out of the top 25 all season right here. What's your feeling on this matchup?
I don't care either way because I think it's a complete toss-up in terms of whatever you want to put there. I would lean Georgia more just because playing in the SEC is just so much more difficult than St. Louis playing in the A-10. They had an incredible season, but they obviously didn't even win their conference tournament. I just feel like what Georgia, the gauntlet that they had to go through in the SEC, a lot of times people say it can wear you out, which was the argument for the Big Ten for years, that playing in such a difficult Big Ten game in, game out wears you out. But I never really bought that. I think this team is going to be equipped and prepared to beat St. Louis.
I just can't see Robbie Avila on my screen and not click in favor of him. So we're rocking with him. We're keeping him in. Texas Tech, Akron. I like the Zips here, man. I won't lie. This is one that I do believe has upset potential. They play fast. They can shoot the lights out. And I don't think Texas Tech, they certainly do not have the level of defensive bite that you'd expect from that overall program right here. Agree or disagree?
Completely agree. Akron, whatever you say it, is top 15 in the nation in points per game and 3-pointers made per game. But they're also one of the smallest teams in the country. They don't really have anybody in the rotation who's over 6'6". The problem is without JT Toppin for Texas Tech, they can't take advantage of it because they don't have much of a front court. I think this Texas Tech team, it's just a disappointing season because of that injury, but it happens, and I think Akron wins.
Yeah, I'm with you there. A team that took a little bit of a concerning turn in recent days is the Alabama Crimson
What are you doing
Tide.
trapping when you're getting paid over $1 million a year? Are you like seriously?
For the love of the game, man. You can't hate the hustle.
Jeez, man. Which game do you love more?
Well, I think we just saw the answer to that. So does Nate Holloway, it does seem like he's going to be away from the program. Aiden Holloway, my fault right there. But facing off with Hofstra. By the way, fun fact right here, Sam Oshtry. Remember all those reports of John Morant punching this kid in a pickup game?
Yeah.
Do you know who that kid was?
I do not. I'm
Aiden
excited
Holloway.
for you. Was it really?
Yes.
How many years ago was that?
2 or 3. He was under 18 at the time.
And like he was going to press charges, but then he didn't press charges?
Correct. That is my understanding of the story there. But
That's
without
wild.
Aiden Holloway, does Alabama have enough to beat Hofstra?
I think so. I don't think this Hofstra team is very good. But I'm concerned. It's not just that they don't have Aiden Holloway. It's all the distractions, everything the coaching staff has had to deal with instead of preparing for this game. It's just a classic Alabama Nate Oates saga, it seems.
They're always so timely, man. They're always right in the mix.
The whole Brandon Miller thing was right before the tournament, too.
Yeah, that's the thing that stands out to me. Obviously, horrible regardless, but the fact that it always happens like right on the heels of like the big stretch is wild. Tennessee versus Miami, Ohio, or SMU. I don't love this Tennessee squad. I do think they're a bit vulnerable. Where's your head at?
I agree. I'll put whatever because I don't think Miami, Ohio is very good. I mean, they're plus 8.5 against SMU in that playing game tomorrow. So if Miami, Ohio somehow pulls off the upset, I would go Tennessee. If it's SMU, though, I would take SMU over Tennessee. So it kind of depends for me. But I think this Tennessee team won't get past around a 32 at the very least. Even though Nate Ament is a good player, and I'm excited to watch him again.
He is. I will say I'm curious to hear your thoughts when we report back and have this conversation. I don't think can light a candle quite to the very top of this draft class, but still a very good player.
He's around like the mock draft I was looking at yesterday, a couple of them. He's around 9-10. He'll be a top 10 pick.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's completely fair, but I do think that there is a drop-off there. So we'll keep rolling with that. We will punch SMU through here. Virginia versus Wright State. I like Virginia. I think they have no problem. I think that this team, you're with me there. I see you nodding along.
Yep.
We'll continue. Kentucky versus Santa Clara. Immediate reactions?
Santa Clara. This Kentucky team's been a disaster down the stretch of the season. The highest paid roster in college basketball. And it just goes to show that you can't build or talent can buy, or excuse me, money can buy talent, but it can't buy a team. And those are two distinctions that people across college basketball are learning as they're just throwing money at some really talented players. And Kentucky bought talent. They didn't buy a team. And then that's why the highest paid roster in college basketball has been super disappointing this year. I think it ends in a first round upset.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like it, and I do think that the pressure is starting to build right down there in Lexington. So it's going to be interesting to see what the fallout is for that. To transition to our final first-round matchup, Iowa State versus Tennessee State. I don't think the Cyclones have any issues pushing this comfortably. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. We'll roll with it. I saw the hesitancy there, but we'll keep on rolling. Yeah. Santa Clara versus Iowa State. Where's your head go?
I'm kind of torn on this Iowa State team. I mean, they have a really balanced scoring attack, and they also have something that's really, really valuable this time of year where not a lot of teams have, which is chemistry and experience among their best players together. Like, they have some continuity with this roster where a lot of these other teams don't. Their 3 top scorers have been there at least the last 2 years. So I think this Iowa State team, they can defend really well. That they have a balanced scoring attack. There's something about them that they lose more than they should, if that makes sense, when I watch them down the stretch of this month. And that kind of worries me.
I'm with you. I'm goal punching them through for now, but that is interesting. Like, I do feel like my brain for how good they should be doesn't exactly equate to what the results have been. But nonetheless, I do think they deserve a pathway through. Virginia versus SMU/Miami, Ohio. How legit is this Virginia team? Enough to be either one of them?
I think so. I think this Virginia team is really good.
Interesting. I do think we may be picking them against Iowa State in the next round, but we'll keep rolling for now. Akron versus Alabama, and this is where I'm ready to put my Cinderella slippers on, is I think Akron can beat Alabama as well, especially on the recent news.
Yeah, I'm willing to say I'll have Akron in the Sweet 16. I believe that's plus 2,000 for them to make the Sweet 16. I like it. This team's good. They play
Wow.
fast, shoot the ball well, a good scoring attack.
Well, let's go Zips, baby. And I believe you alluded to Michigan will have no problem cruising past St. Louis, correct?
Yeah, none.
No arguments here. Purdue versus Miami. Like I said, I am a little bit skeptical about this Purdue team, but I do think they are good enough to beat Miami. With me?
Yeah,
All right, we'll roll with that. Gonzaga and BYU. This is where I am ready to get up my upset shoes a little bit. I think AJ DeBance is going to be too much for this Gonzaga team. I think his athleticism is going to pop off the page to an extent. I think BYU gets the job done here.
I agree. Also, because Braden Huff for Gonzaga is
Sure.
still out, and he's not going to play all weekend. Now, apparently, he might play if they make it to the second weekend, but I don't think they're going to make it to the second weekend. This BYU team, I mean, they have a lot of concerns. Their defense stinks, but they can score the best of them, and I think they get by Gonzaga.
Love it. All right, next up, we got Arkansas versus Wisconsin and Arizona versus Villanova. To me, I feel pretty strongly this will be an Arizona versus Arkansas Sweet 16 matchup. Any arguments there?
I mean, definitely Zona. I have Wisconsin in my bracket.
Okay.
But I can't like I love like I said I love this Arkansas team. I had them winning the SEC tournament. It's just one of those things where I think they're out earlier than people expect. One of these conference champions who's out earlier than people expect. Tough travel after winning the conference tournament, which always can hurt you sometimes. And then you have, I think they're going to win the first game, but then you have obviously 1 day of rest in between. Wisconsin again, they get hot from three. They can beat anybody in the league in the country. They really can. So I have Wisconsin in my bracket, but I get if you want to go Arkansas.
Sam Oshtry, I gave you a couple. Arkansas is staying in the dance.
You're
here.
controlling the thing, so I have no say right now. I'm just in the passenger seat here.
Yeah. All right. Houston versus St. Mary's. The thing that I will say straight up is bet the under, fellas, that this game is going to be an absolute rock fight. The first team to crack 50 will probably have a clear path to winning. But with that being said, I like Houston, man. I think they're the better team on both ends, even with the Gales defense being elite as well.
Definitely. I got Houston and Illinois too. Pretty easy in both those matchups.
I will say I do think VCU can cause a little bit of a buzz here. It wouldn't overall shock me.
I agree. I'm a really big Illinois fan, which is why I can't have VCU advancing. But in another bracket or region, VCU is 11 seed. They could make a real run.
Yeah, I've certainly given some thought to pushing VCU through on my own right there. So we'll keep that in mind, but we will keep Illinois in here. McNeese versus Nebraska. Can McNeese produce the second round upset as well? What do you think, Sam Oshtry?
I do. Nebraska is another team what I talked about with Vanderbilt, where McNeese forces as the second most turnovers in the nation, number one in turnover rate. Nebraska turns the ball over, not as much as Vanderbilt, but they're top 30 in the nation in turnovers per game. So this McNeese team will control the possession battle. It'll be a similar test that they face against Vanderbilt. Different teams, obviously, but I think this McNeese team pushes it through.
I'll rock with it. I got no issue there. Florida and Iowa. I like Florida. I do think they're being a bit overrated in the wider conversation, but I do think they're good enough to beat Iowa. Any objections?
Nah, Florida easy.
Cool. And to keep it rolling, UCLA versus UConn. Who am I, Sam Oshtry? I kind of like the Bruins.
I do too.
Wow.
I think Donovan Dent is the best player in that game. This UConn team, I mean, look, Dan Hurley's a nut, and I would trust him more than most this time of year. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. This UConn team just isn't that good. I mean, they're 2-2 in the last two games. The St. John's losses, whatever, but they also lost to Marquette towards the end of the season. Yeah. They just haven't been playing consistent basketball, and they've been in a terrible Big East, so their record is super inflated. I think UCLA gets it done. The only thing I'm concerned about is UCLA is traveling from LA to Philly for this game, and that's a tough travel to play 2 games in 3 days. But I think UCLA completely healthy, and hopefully they will be, is as talented as UConn.
I'm with you that I think that they've maximized their talent, UConn has, but the fact of the matter is that talent is not quite to the level that needs to be for them to win championships, as was the case 2 years ago. Michigan State and South Florida. I like the Bulls. I like South Florida. I think Michigan State is a team that, as I kind of hinted at, has a chance to win it all. I like them to win here.
So do I. Easy.
Cool. Let's keep it rolling. St. John's in Kansas. What's your vibe on this one? I like the Jayhawks, but what are you thinking?
Really like the Jayhawks. I don't trust Darren Peterson, and all season they've looked like two different teams with and without Darren Peterson.
Correct.
This Kansas
arguably
team,
better without him.
Yeah, I mean they definitely have had some huge wins without him, no doubt. But again, those are at home. Like those wins are at home, where it's a completely different environment when you're playing at Allen Fieldhouse. I think the St. I mean, unbelievable coaching matchup, by the way. 2 Hall of Fame coaches, and Rick Pitino and Bill Self. Similar to last year when we saw in this round of 32, Rick Pitino against John Calipari. John Calipari obviously won. I think the St. John's team is just too physically tough. They just defend at such a high level where Kansas offense will struggle, and I think St. John's wins that game.
I'll give it to you. We'll roll with St. John's, but I do like the Jayhawks there. Duke TCU, I don't think this one is close. I think Duke rolls with me.
Yep.
And how about Duke versus St. John's? Where's your head at there? How much do you believe in the Johnnies, the Red Storm?
Not enough. I got Duke. The only thing is that Duke's dealing with some injuries. Obviously, Caleb Foster. That's the one thing that's really tough region. I think this Duke team is the best in the nation, and they should win the national title. But no Caleb Foster, or his status is uncertain, I should say, and in a really tough region where they kind of got screwed in a lot of ways with how great their region was compared to other 1 seeds, and they were the 1 overall. So I'm going to take Duke, but that's going to be an unbelievable, probably the best Sweet 16 game we'll have between Duke and St. John's.
Yeah, love it. Michigan State versus UCLA. I'm riding with the Spartans, man. As much as I love Donovan Dent, I'm in on Michigan State, and I'm excited to have the conversation in the next round. You with me?
So am I.
Cool. And to keep it rolling, Florida versus McNeese. Is this the end of the road for the Cowboys?
It is. It is. Give me Florida.
I'm with you. Illinois versus Houston. I like Houston in this matchup pretty strongly. I know you're an Illinois fan. Where are you at?
I like Illinois. This Houston team, they obviously defend really well like a typical Houston team does. But this Houston team relies on way more freshmen than a typical Kelvin Sampson team. I mean, 2 freshman starters, another guy in the freshman in the rotation. Yeah, I mean, they've looked ready all year, but March Madness is just a different beast. And Houston's experience is and their veterans is really what's dragged them deep in the tournament when they've made great runs, including last year. So I think
I will push back
to
say
really
there's
good.
some impactful freshmen on Illinois as well, I will note. And keep an eye 76ers draft pack, Chris Sinak Jr., who I love with all my heart on that Houston roster.
I just think
I lost Sam for a second. Okay,
you got me back. Yeah, I lost you too for a second.
Yep.
I was going to keep ad-libbing. I got Illinois. I didn't even see what you put. What'd you put?
I pushed Houston through.
Okay, my word means nothing here, everybody.
Arizona versus Arkansas.
Zona.
I would take Arizona, but I just took the last one, so I'll give this one to you. BYU and Purdue, where you at? I'm with BYU.
Yeah, like I could see BYU. I like a ticket BYU to make the Elite Eight. I think it's definitely possible. But this Purdue team is really good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this Purdue team has the best guards and as much experience. We're just talking about experience and whose team we're talking. Iowa State's experience, right there. Purdue is right there with some of the best experience and a lot of returners, where that's going to typically lead to a lot of success in March. I just don't think their defense is that good. So give me BYU.
All right, I'm with you. We are into the home stretch here. Michigan versus Akron. It's been a good run for our Zips. I do think it ends here. And Iowa State versus Virginia. Where's your head at in each of these?
Give me Michigan, Virginia. But I don't have a problem if you want to go Iowa State.
No, I actually do like Virginia. I'm in agreement with you there. This one, I don't think we're going to be in agreement. Duke versus Michigan State. Give me the Spartans, man. Give me Tom Izzo's bunch. I don't think you see it the same way, do you?
No, I think this Duke team is too good. I mean, they've just dominated everybody, including a non-conference, including Michigan. That they killed Michigan. Okay, that's over-exaggerating. They beat Michigan earlier this year, but this was a Michigan team that dominated Michigan State twice this year. I think this Duke team is just invincible on some level if they're completely healthy, which hopefully they would be, especially by the second weekend. I got Duke over Michigan State.
Well, we're going to dive into the basketball analytics of rock, paper, scissors right now, Sam Oshtry.
All right. You think it's going to freeze?
1,
right?
2.
Wait, did you do says at the end or no?
No, rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ready?
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Again.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Jeez.
What do you got?
We're on the same wavelength.
All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Bang.
Man,
Michigan State advances. That's how we do it on the Pace and Space podcast. Florida and Houston.
Electric podcasting, by the way.
Yeah. Florida and Houston. Who you got?
Florida.
I'll give it to you.
Houston losing the round before, but I don't have Florida in my Final Four. I got Illinois in my Final Four, just for the record.
Interesting. All right. Arizona and BYU. Zona keeps cruising?
Yep. I got Zona and Michigan.
Both the 1 seeds advance. So our final 4, we have 3 1 seeds in Michigan State, which I do fight tooth and nail, fight paper and scissors to get in this right
You
here.
were getting that team in no matter what. I will say, because you have them in, I should have Illinois in, because my final 4 is actually 3 1s and a 3, but I have Arizona, Michigan, Duke, and then Illinois is my 3 seed in there.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't want to go back and fix it. I won't lie to you.
I don't care, because I don't have either of those 2 teams winning anyway, so I don't really care.
All right, so Florida versus Michigan State. Who you got?
I guess give me Michigan State for the fun.
Hell yeah. And then Arizona, Michigan. Who you got, Sam Oshtry?
I think this is the national champion. I've gone back and forth a ton. I'm going to lean Arizona, but it's just they're a team that creates with their offensive rebounding. That's where a lot of their shot creation comes from. Just an incredible offensive rebounding team. They're not a team that can shoot the ball particularly well, and just hard to win 6 straight games when you can't shoot the ball well. So you go and put Arizona as your national champion, and I think it's possible, but I'm so torn between Arizona and Michigan. One bracket I'll have Arizona, another I'll have Michigan. I don't have a definitive national champion.
Well, shout out to Koa Pete and the Arizona Wildcats for being crowned national champions right here on the Pace and Space podcast. Overall bracket right here. We ran a little long doing that, so apologies for that.
Super long.
Yeah, so we're going to pop off, call that an episode right here, and get ready to watch some Sixers versus Nuggets. But appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in and hanging with us tonight. Make sure you're dropping that subscribe button, giving us a follow wherever you're listening, giving that thumbs up wherever you can, and me and Sam will be back to talk with you next time. Peace.